The last signal. The skies above Varian 5 turned dark before the attack began. At first, it was just clouds. Then came the ship's black, silent, and deadly. Larn stood on the tall cliffs near his village, his small body shivering as he watched fire fall from the sky. His people were peaceful. They had no real weapons, no warships, no army. They believed in peace treaties, in trade, in trust. But trust didn't stop the invaders. The raider ships moved fast. They dropped metal beasts with red eyes and claws. These machines tore through homes like they were made of paper. Screams filled the air. The Varians tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. Larn's father pushed him into a hidden cave beneath the cliff. "Don't come out," he said, voice shaking. "I'll lead them away. Find the signal tower. Send a call for help." Then he ran into the fire. Larn didn't see him again. Hours passed. Larn waited until the sounds of war faded. He climbed out of the cave, covered in dust and fear. The village below was nothing but smoke and ruins. Bodies lay in the streets. Even the sky seemed to cry, dark clouds rumbling above. But Larn remembered the mission. Send a call for help. He ran through the broken village, avoiding the fire and the machines that still walked the roads. Somehow, he made it to the old signal tower at the edge of the forest. The tower hadn't been used in years. It was a relic from the time of the first contact, a time when aliens from far away had once spoken to Earth. Back then, Earth was an ally, a strong one, but something changed. The humans stopped responding. Some said they had grown cold. Others said they were hiding. Still, the tower had one setting, a deep emergency beacon, coded to Earth's last known channel. Larn wiped the dust from the panel and pressed his small hands against the activation glass dot. Nothing happened. He cried out in panic. No. Please work. He kicked the side. He hit the old screen. Then just a flicker. A small green light blinked. The beacon. Core hummed, old power cells waking from deep sleep. The system came online with a low voice. Terran emergency line. Signal linked. Status. Dormant. Please confirm distress. Larn's hands shook. He spoke quickly, his voice cracking. "This is Varian 5. We are under attack. Please, we need help. Anyone, please." The system paused, processing the short message. Message confirmed. Signal will transmit across the Terran Deep network. Larn watched as the message was sent, bouncing into the stars. He fell to his knees and whispered, "Please ... let someone hear it." Far away, light years beyond Varian 5, something stirred. In the darkness, deep beneath Earth's surface, hidden from the eyes of all, an ancient satellite blinked. It had been silent for decades. It was part of an old defense network, forgotten by most. But its code still lived. It still listened, and it had just heard Varian 5's cry for help. The satellite processed the message. It bypassed civilian lines. It ignored the main channels. Instead, it activated a cold line buried in the Earth's War Archives. Project Black Talon. In a room with no name. Far beneath the frozen mountains of northern Earth, red lights blinked. Screens lit up. Old weapons stirred. A single voice echoed through the room. Deathworld protocol activated. Commander Rill opened her eyes. She had been asleep in cryo for 3 years, waiting for the right signal. Not peace, not politics. Just one message. A cry for help from the stars. She stepped out of the pod, muscles tensing. Her black armor waited nearby, shining under the emergency lights. She read the report on the screen. One planet, attacked, no. Defenses, sent signal to Earth. She didn't smile. She just said 3 words. Send the monsters. Back on Varian 5, Larn stayed at the tower. He didn't know if the message had reached anyone. He didn't know if his people would survive another night. But in the silence of the ruins, the beacon still blinked. Hope, as small as it was, had been sent. Asterisk. Earth's monsters unleashed. The warship Oblivion Lance rested like a black dagger in Earth's orbit, hidden behind the shadow of the moon. It had no name on its hull, no signal in the stars. To the galaxy, it did not exist. Inside the ship, red lights turned green. Commander Rill stood fully armored, her cold blue eyes staring at the mission screen. Around her, 6 others stood silently, humans like her, but not normal by any measure. These were Deathworlders, humans trained, engineered, and selected to survive the worst places in the universe. They didn't wear uniforms. They wore fear itself. Each of them came from a place where no other life form could survive. They had been tested in fire, on acid lands, frozen tombs, and planets filled with storms that ripped flesh from bone. Now they were being deployed. Rill looked at her team and said calmly, Varian 5, civilian planet, attacked, minimal survivors. No defenses. They called Earth for help. She paused. But we are not help. We are the answer. Bettine nodded. Their ship began to power up. Dark engines hummed like a predator's growl. Hidden weapons moved into place. Rail cannons, anti-fleet, lasers, orbital shock bombs. Everything about Oblivion Lance was designed for war, but not for clean war, for ending things. Far below, Earth's leaders didn't even meet. The command came from one man, deep in a cold room. He pressed a single key, and the command was sent. Deploy Project Black Talon. Full clearance. No mercy. Back on Variant 5, Larn tried to survive. He returned to the ruins of his village. Everything was broken, homes smashed, trees burned, skies black. The raiders had moved on to another region, but their machines still patrolled the streets. Like hunting animals, Larn found 2 other survivors, a wounded elder and a small girl named Myra. They were hiding in a broken food cellar. Larn shared what little he had and told them about the signal he sent. The elder just shook his head. Earth has forgotten us. The humans don't care. That call was pointless. Larn didn't believe it. He looked to the stars every night, waiting. Then one night the sky changed. There was no sound, no warning. Just a ripple in the clouds, a sudden burst of dark light, and a shadow that covered the stars. It wasn't a ship. It was a message. Oblivion Lance had arrived. High above the planet, cloaked in black plasma, the ship watched the ground like a hawk over prey. Inside, Commander Rill gave orders in calm, simple language. Phase 1. Orbital cleanse. Strike only. Raider zones. No civilian zones, yet. The railguns opened first silent beams of light so fast, they tore through enemy ships before alarms could sound. Entire camps of raiders vanished in seconds. Heat-seeking drones followed, tearing through. Escape routes. One enemy commander tried to flee in a dropship. It exploded mid-air. The sky rained silent fire. On the ground, the Varians looked up in fear. They had begged for help, but this was something else. From above, Oblivion Lance dropped 7. Black pods. They screamed through the air, landing with thunder near 70 points on the planet. Each pod opened and out stepped one Deathworlder. Not soldiers, not saviors. Something else. ARN watched as one of the pods landed near the old grain fields. Smoke rose as the door slid open. From inside, a figure stepped out. She was tall, covered in dark armor, her helmet glowing red. She moved like a ghost, silent, deadly, without fear. The raider bots turned toward her, scanning her presence. The Deathworlder didn't wait. She pulled 2 long blades from her back and ran forward, slicing through steel as if it were cloth. Sparks flew. Metal screamed. The machines died in seconds. Lauren's eyes went wide. The girl next to him whispered, "She's not one of us?" "No," the elder replied softly. "She's one of them." The galaxy had once feared humans for their strange minds and violent ways. Now, they would fear them for something else entirely, what they had become. And the people of Varian 5 had called them Asterisk. First contact and fire. Smoke still rose over the broken hills of Varian 5. Deathworlders had arrived, but they didn't speak, didn't explain, and didn't stop. From the skies, the black warship Oblivion Lance hovered silently, like a shadow waiting to fall. The people of Varian 5 didn't know if it was their savior or their punishment. The raiders did not have time to wonder. Commander Rill's voice came through every Deathworlder's come line. "Strike teams, advance. Leave no enemies standing. Do not engage civilians, unless ordered." On the ground, the war had changed. The raiders who once ruled the villages with fear were now prey. Their ships were cut down, their war beasts burned, even their strongest. Fighters couldn't last more than a few seconds. One Deathworlder, known only as Holt, moved through a forest path outside the eastern ridge. A 10-foot beast with armor plating charged at him. Holt didn't even raise his weapon. He stepped aside, grabbed the creature's jaw, and snapped its neck in one twist. Silence followed. These weren't normal humans. They were Earth's monsters. Larn, Mira, and the Elder crouched inside a burned-out house. The girl pointed to the road. "There, look." A tall figure walked calmly down the dirt road. He wore black armor with red lines, and a helmet shaped like a skull. Behind him, a floating drone scanned the buildings. Larn held his breath. Man stopped in the middle of the road, turned, and looked straight at the house. Larn whispered, "He saw us." The figure raised his left hand, and the door burst open. A small scanning light passed over them, pausing on Mira, then the Elder, then Larn. They waited. Then the voice came deep, cold, and mechanical. "No weapons, no threat. Continue hiding." He turned and walked away like nothing happened. The Elder gasped. "They don't talk like us. They feel like machines." "No," Larn whispered. "They're human, but something's missing." Across the plains, the last group of Raider command ships began lifting off. Their leader, a large armored creature named Krek, watched from a tower window. The Deathworlders had destroyed half his forces in a single day. He slammed his fist on the table. "These aren't soldiers," he shouted. "They don't speak. They don't surrender. They just kill." Another Raider captain replied in panic, "Our fleet is useless. Their warship, it's blocking every exit path. And their soldiers move like they can't die." Krek turned toward the skies. His eyes narrowed at the black ship in orbit. "You called for help," he growled. "You brought demons." He ordered a full retreat, but it was too late. From above, Oblivion Lance locked onto every escape ship with laser precision. Within seconds, 6 large explosions lit up the skies. Pieces of flaming metal fell like rain. The people of Varian 5 watched the fire, and slowly they realized the war might be over, but peace hadn't returned. It had been replaced by silence. A powerful, heavy silence. Later that night, Commander Rill stood on a scorched hill with her team. Below them were the ruins of a raider base. Behind them, terrified Varian survivors huddled in shelters. "Report," Rill said quietly. One of her team replied, "Enemy resistance, 97% destroyed. Remaining forces fleeing underground or dead." Another added, "Civilians minimal threat. Most are afraid." Few tried to speak. "Most are hiding." Rill nodded. "Hold position. We stay until full control is established." She looked to the horizon. "They cried for help," she said, "and help came. But help has rules. And we are the rules. Then she activated her helmet's scanner and walked down toward the city ruins, not to bring peace, not to comfort survivors, but to watch Dot to make sure this world never needed saving again. Lauren stared at the sky again that night. The fires had died down. The Deathworlders had stopped fighting for now, but no one could sleep. What are they? Myra asked. They don't act like people. Lauren didn't answer right away. He finally said, they're what Earth became after the galaxy forgot them. He looked at the stars, and now they've returned. Asterisk, the ground shakes. The next morning, the ground trembled. Not from battle, not anymore. This time, it was the Deathworlders moving. Varian 5's soil was still scorched and broken, but silence had replaced the screaming. The black ship, Oblivion. Lance now hovered lower in the sky, almost like it was watching. Its deep hum echoed through the wind like a beast breathing slowly. Larn, Mira, and the old elder crept out from the ruins, carefully making their way to what remained of the village square. Others were there too, silent, wounded, confused survivors. They didn't speak to each other. They only looked toward the distant armored figures standing along the hilltop. They had arrived without warning. They had crushed the enemy Dot, and now they just stood there. Lauren counted 5 of them in the main village zone. Each Deathworlder wore different armor, but all were dark, heavy, and terrifying. One stood at the edge of a broken bridge, scanning the horizon with a glowing blue visor. Another walked silently among the wreckage, occasionally stopping to drop small black orbs that disappeared into the dirt. What are they doing? Mira asked, hiding behind Larn. I don't know, he replied. They aren't rebuilding. They're setting something. One of the humans turned sharply, as if hearing them. Even from a distance, his helmet seemed to stare directly at Larn. The boy froze. But after a few tense seconds, the Deathworlder turned away and continued his work. They don't speak to us, the elder muttered. Not even to explain. They already did, Larn said quietly, with fire. Far above, inside Oblivion Lance, Commander Rill watched the ground through dozens of screens. Every Deathworlder's helmet sent back live feed scans of life signs, building integrity, enemy remnants, and movement patterns. But her eyes focused on something else. The fear. Even when the Raiders ruled Varian 5, the aliens hadn't looked like this. Terrified, yes, but now they looked broken, quiet, unsure whether they were free or owned. Rill tapped her comm. Team 3, rotate to Western Ridge. Phase 2 cleanup begins now. One voice replied, confirmed. Dismantling Raider tech. Scanning for hidden caches. Another voice came through lower, deeper. Locals are watching. Scared. One approached and fell to his knees. Begged for water. Rill raised an eyebrow. Response? Stepped over him. He didn't follow. She nodded to herself. Good. We're not their heroes. We're the reminder. At the village edge, the ground began to shake again. This time harder. Boom. Dust jumped. Stones rattled. Survivors ran behind walls. Then out of the trees emerged something huge. It was not a tank. It was not a building. It was a walker unit, a massive 4-legged machine, black and wide, taller than the trees. On top sat one Deathworlder, calm and still, operating the beast. With one gloved hand, the machine scanned the ruins, then pointed its cannon downward and fired not a weapon blast, but a sonic pulse that shook the very foundations of the old city. Nearby walls collapsed completely. Underneath, a hidden Raider weapons vault. The crowd gasped. The Deathworlders hadn't just destroyed the enemy, they were now removing every trace of them. Lauren stepped forward slightly. They're cleaning up. But not like builders. Like hunters marking territory. A soft voice beside him whispered, What if we're next? By the riverbanks, one young Varian tried to speak to a Deathworlder who stood watching the water. He approached slowly, hands open, voice calm. "Human, we thank you for saving us." The Deathworlder said nothing. I wish to understand. Will you stay? Will we be okay?" Still no answer. Then the human turned his helmet slightly and spoke, his voice robotic and cold. "If you feared death before, you have no idea what lives beside you now." Then he walked away. The young Varian fell to his knees. Inside the warship, Rill received new orders from Earth. A message blinked on. Her screen. Phase 3. Establish post-action authority. Remain. Monitor. Adapt. She leaned back in her chair and muttered, "They asked for help. Now they'll live under it." She watched one of the screens where a Deathworlder stood alone on a high tower. The wind blew past him. He didn't move. To others, he looked like a statue, but to Rill, he was a warning, and the message was clear. Call Earth if you want help, but be ready for the monsters that answer. No mercy protocol. Night returned to Varian 5. But this time, it wasn't just dark. It was silent. No animal sounds. No wind. Only the heavy hum of human machines moving through the ruins. The Deathworlders were everywhere now. Each street, each hill, each broken rooftop had one watching, scanning, walking with steps that made the ground vibrate. Their eyes glowed in the dark like hunting beasts. And still, they spoke to no one. They didn't offer food. They didn't build homes. They didn't smile. They occupied. Inside the hidden command center of Oblivion Lance, Commander Rill stood before. A hologram of the region. Red dots marked former raider bases. Green showed cleared zones, but one dot flashed yellow active. Rill turned to her second in command, a tall, silent man called Dren. "Holdouts," she said flatly. "Trying to flee underground. Standard fighters won't do. Send in protocol units." Dren nodded. "Full no mercy protocol?" "Full," she confirmed. "This planet asked for fire. We're not done burning yet." In the deep canyons of Varian 5, what remained of the raider elite tried to hide. Krek, their commander, dragged his wounded leg through rock and ash. Around him, 6 others struggled to keep pace. They had once laughed at this planet. It was weak, soft, peaceful. Now, they feared even the sky above. "They're still hunting us," one raider whispered, looking upward. "They never sleep. They never—" A blast of heat silenced him. One of the humans had landed alone. Black armor, red visor, twin energy swords glowing. No words. No warnings. Just action. In seconds. Krek's entire squad was reduced to dust and smoke. Only Krek survived, barely crawling. As the Deathworlder stood over him, Krek raised his hand and begged, "Mercy." The human tilted his head. "We didn't bring mercy." Then his boot came down. Har. Larn heard the explosion even from miles away. He stood on the same hill he'd hidden in days ago, only now the trees were gone. The river was poisoned. The animals had vanished. He watched as black drones floated above and marked old temples with red lights. Soon after, human walkers arrived and crushed the ancient stone buildings with mechanical arms. "Why are they destroying everything?" Mira asked from behind. The elder spoke for the first time all day. "Because they don't want enemies hiding. Not now. Not later. Not ever." Larn looked up at the Oblivion Lance, still hanging in the sky like a ghost. "They came to help us. But now they're changing everything." Later that day, a small Varian group approached one of the Deathworlders stationed near the farms. A female elder, dressed in ceremonial robes, held out a gift flowers grown from the planet's soil. Placed them gently before the soldiers' feet. "We welcome you," she said. "We thank you, and we ask, can you now leave us in peace?" The Deathworlder didn't move. didn't look down, didn't speak. Instead, his wrist clicked, sending a message straight to orbit. A drone flew down and vaporized the flowers. Elder fell back, shocked. Others gasped. Then, finally, the Death Worlder spoke. Peace is a word you don't get to use anymore. Inside the ship, Commander Rill watched the scene through her screen. She didn't flinch. A soldier behind her spoke up for the first time. They fear us. They should, Rill said. They called us for help, he added. They called Earth. She replied, and Earth doesn't do help. It does control. The soldier stayed quiet. Then Rill turned, her voice lower. You want to save people? Don't train them to call for help. Train them to fear what happens when help does arrive. The next morning, new signs were placed across Virion 5's remaining cities. No banners, no flags, just one simple sentence written in glowing Earth script and repeated in Virion language. This planet is under Terran protection. Do not resist. Do not question. Do not forget who answered your call. And just like that, Virion 5 became something else. Not a colony, not a battlefield, but a lesson. For the galaxy to remember. Asterisk. Fear of the saved. The war was over. There were no more battles. No more explosions. No more raiders. But peace? Never returned. Instead. Virion 5 was filled with a quiet that no one trusted. The kind of silence that came after something terrible. The kind of silence that meant someone somewhere was still watching. And they were in the center of the ruined capital. Deathworlders stood like statues, one on every major building, their black armor reflecting the light of a sun that now seemed too dim. The survivors moved carefully. They whispered. They didn't look up. Children no longer laughed. Mothers walked quickly, holding hands tightly. Even nature stayed still. Birds did not fly over cities anymore. Larn sat beside Myra on the edge of a broken fountain. Behind them, the elder lay resting, too tired to speak, too scared to dream. Larn looked up at the sky. Oblivion Lance still hovered there, never landing, never leaving. Do you think they'll go soon? Mira asked quietly. No, Larn said. They've already taken root. He looked around the city. New black towers were being built, not by Varians, but by machines the humans brought. Giant drills pounded the ground. Long antennas reached into the sky. What are those? Myra asked. I don't know, but I think they're building Earth here, piece by piece. At the council ruins, a group of Virion elders gathered. The war had wiped out many leaders. These were the last few, and none of them had real power anymore. They decided to speak to the humans. A show of peace. Maybe, finally, to ask them to leave. Approached a Deathworlder near the city center, a tall man with armor that pulsed faint red. He didn't look up when they came. He didn't acknowledge their bows. An elder spoke carefully. You've saved our people. We honor you, but our lives are no longer our own. Will Earth release us now? The Deathworlder finally turned his head slightly. Saved you? The elder nodded nervously. Yes, we didn't come to save you, the human said. We came because you cried for help, and Earth does not ignore a cry, but Earth also does not leave behind its territory. He stepped forward. You are now part of something larger. You asked to be. Then he walked away. No more words, just truth. Later that night, Mira woke from sleep screaming. Larn ran to her side. What is it? What did you see? She was shaking. I had a dream. The humans were gone, but something worse came. And we couldn't scream for help again, because Earth already answered once. The elder, half asleep, said quietly, That's how they keep control. Larn sat beside them both, his chest tight. He remembered his father's words before. The battle. Send a call for help. And he had. Now the help stood in every street with weapons. Now the help watched them eat, sleep, speak. Now the help rewrote their future without asking. Commander Rill stood in the operations deck of Oblivion Lance. Watching it all unfold below, a soldier entered. "We've received another signal," he said. "Another planet?" Rill asked. "Yes." "Similar distress. Civilian target. Outnumbered. They're begging." She stared at the blinking red icon on the screen. She could almost hear the voice crying in the dark. "Are we sending aid?" The soldier asked. "No," Rill replied. "Then, what should I log?" She turned, expression unreadable. "Log it as a claim." The soldier paused. "Claim?" Rill smiled faintly. "They asked for Earth. We'll give them Earth." Back on Varian 5, a drone floated past Larn and Mira as they sat in the dust. It scanned them. Larn didn't flinch. Anymore. He had stopped reacting 2 days ago. He was used to being watched. But as the drone left, he whispered, "We cried for help." Mira looked at him, scared. He finished, "And now we'll never cry again." The new order begins. The black banners went up at dawn. They weren't made of cloth, but shimmering panels of dark metal. They stood tall across every main street, every town square, every government building that still had walls. The banners didn't carry a symbol or a flag, only 3 words, glowing faint white, property of Earth. The people of Varian 5 watched in silence as drones placed the last one on top of the former council building. There had once been a blue flag there, a symbol of peace and unity. Now it was gone, burned, buried and forgotten. Just like the old world. Commander Rill stood at the center of a platform built atop the ruins of the capital. Behind her, Deathworlders stood in full armor, unmoving. The sky above shimmered as Oblivion Lance cast its massive shadow down on the world like a quiet storm. Before her, thousands of Varians stood in rows watching, waiting, unsure if this was a speech or a sentence. Rill's voice echoed across the plaza, cold and calm. "You cried for help." She let the silence sit. And Earth answered, not with words, not with hope, with order. She stepped forward. "You were weak. You were prey. You asked to survive. And now you will, under us." No one clapped. No one spoke. They simply stood there, as if chained by invisible ropes. "We do not leave what we save," Rill continued. "You are now under Earth's eye, and Earth does not blink." Then she raised her hand, and the banners across the city lit up brighter, visible from orbit. The message was complete. The takeover was now official. That evening, Larn walked through the city ruins alone. Mira was asleep, and the Elder no longer left the shelter. He passed by drones, black towers, and silent Deathworlders. They never spoke unless they needed to. They never asked questions. They just watched, and sometimes corrected. He came to the hill where the signal tower once stood, the same tower where he'd sent Earth the message days ago. It was now destroyed, torn down and replaced with a small Terran command post. But the memory stayed. He stood there for a long time, hands in his pockets staring at the stars. And then he heard a soft voice. "You were the one who called, weren't you?" Larn turned. Behind him stood one of the humans, not in armor, not in a helmet, but in a simple dark uniform. Her face was calm, unreadable. She had silver eyes and short black hair, like a statue carved from steel. "Ah, yes," Larn said. "I sent the signal." The woman nodded. "You did the right thing." "Did I?" he asked quietly. She didn't smile. She didn't lie. "You're alive. That's what you asked for." Then she turned and walked back into the shadows, disappearing. Between the black machines, Larn didn't move. He stared at the ground where she stood. He was alive. His people were alive. But their world, was gone. Far above, inside Oblivion Lance, Rill sat at the command center. Another red light blinked on her screen. Another planet. Another call. Another voice begging for help. She leaned back in her seat. The screen displayed a message. Distress. Signal received. Origin. Unregistered system. Civilian class. Threat level. Unknown. She paused for a moment, then whispered, Send it to the fleet. Another soldier turned to her. Another rescue? No, Rill replied, her eyes cold. Another world for Earth. She stood up, her armor clicking softly as she moved toward the bridge. The stars outside twinkled like tiny eyes, some watching in hope. Some not yet aware of what was coming. Back on Varian 5, children played quietly in empty streets, always under watch. And in the sky, Earth's ship remained. UNMOVING. Not just a protector. Not just a visitor. A permanent shadow. The galaxy would speak of. Varian 5 for generations. Not because it was attacked. Not because it was saved. But because it became the first to learn. When Earth answers a cry for help, it never leaves. Asterisk.